we're going to bring up Martyn and John, and they're going to talk about Omnitude and what they're doing. They're doing some interesting things in the world of, I think, identity and e-commerce and supply chain and slideshare. Just figure out how to do it. Good. That working for you? That works. Good. Who must take? You?
I'll take it first.
Okay, super.
Thank you. Okay, so you got a double act tonight. My name's John Harris. I'm the Chief Branding Officer of Omnitude. I've spent my life establishing relationships between customers and brands, and I've done it for the likes of Virgin, Unilever, S&P Global, Madison Square Garden, lots of other businesses. I've also done it for startups and very micro businesses at the same time. The game's always the same. It's always about the relationship between the brand and the customer. I'd like to talk a bit about that later on today and what that means with blockchain.
I can have a choice of two here.
Oh.
And I'm Martyn Brougham. I'm the Chief Operations Officer for Omnitude in the US, looking after the Americas region. My background is man and boy in supply chain. The last 11 years I've been working with DHL supply chain, and I now joined Omnitude 6 months ago. So thank you for all inviting us here. Great audience in terms of the size, and looking forward to hearing some of your views later on.
Okay, so we're going to start with a brief introduction of what is Omnitude. It started off about a year ago with 4 guys in a very, very small room somewhere on the south coast in the UK, in a small town called Worthing. It's just a little off from Brighton. We spent the last year fundraising and expanding and developing our platform, of which first elements of that will be going live very, very soon. So what is Omnitude? So Omnitude is a middleware layer. It's a blockchain middleware layer that communicates with existing legacy systems, warehouse management systems, ERP systems, customer relationship systems, via a series of APIs, and allows businesses to adopt the benefits of blockchain technology and distributed ledgers without having to replace those systems. It's cost effective, it's time effective, and we are offering a series of broad-based solutions to businesses across supply chain, customer data, e-commerce platforms. And we believe that we're not creating a one-point solution. We're creating an ecosystem and a platform for not only us to develop those solutions, but other blockchain businesses, when the platform's up and running, to come and join us and develop those solutions, and even the businesses themselves that have their own tech departments to use that platform and the APIs that we're producing and the abstracted architecture that we're producing around Hyperledger Fabric. We're also using lots of other Hyperledger systems, Quilt and so on and so forth, to help us create this large horizontal base of blockchain solutions. So we're quite unusual in those terms. And our uniqueness has seen us grow from 4 to 28. We now have representation in Cape Town, Atlanta, Austin, London and Zurich. And we also have a broad base of clients as well. So we'll just show you a couple of those at this moment in time, and we'll start off. The first is Williams Martini Racing, the Formula One team. You might have seen them at the Austin Grand Prix a few weeks back. We're working with them to help them extrapolate data, race data, and simulation data, and include version control within that data so they understand that data, where that's come from, they can trust it. They can track back where things might have gone wrong or where things might have gone right, and be able to make changes very quickly. We're working towards doing that in their simulation environment currently, and then to roll that out to a live race environment. And it involves a lot of data coming down from a lot of data points on the cars and the performance. So it's a real challenge for us, but it's, I think it's testament to our real-world expertise that Williams has decided to choose us to help them with that project, which we're very excited about.
For those that are keenly interested in European flags, you'll notice this is the logo on the flag of Malta. I'm sure you all knew that, right? So one of our partners is the Maltese government. We're working with their Department of Transport on a blockchain solution to report on the timeliness of their bus services, ferry services, and their taxi services. They have a problem at the moment that GPS data that they use isn't always being representative of the actual performance of the bus timetable. And we're going to be writing the GPS data straight to the blockchain and then using that as a reporting infrastructure. We're involved in quite a few other projects of the Maltese government as well. Obviously, there's a big blockchain conference there at the end of this week, I think it is. They are the blockchain island of the Mediterranean. I think they'd like to be like Austin needs to be, or aspires to be, the blockchain capital of the US. I think Malta is trying to be the blockchain capital of Europe right now. So interesting times ahead for us, I think, with those.
So I'll just quickly run through a couple of the other clients that we have, just to give you our understanding of the breadth of what our offer is. We have Absolute Taste, who's a high-end restaurant and catering service. They do a lot of restaurant and catering events, and they're using us to help them with the provenance of their food and the supply of their food as well. So for them, the catering experience is very much about the story behind the sourcing of the ingredients and the theatre of serving it up. And so we're using blockchain to help track that and deliver that theatre to their customers. Image and Pay, much as their name suggests, are looking to disrupt the payment services through using images to pay for products and services. And again, our blockchain solution is fundamental in them being able to realise their vision going forward. CS Cart are an e-commerce retail platform, a multi-vendor e-commerce retail platform with 35,000 sites across 170 countries. And we're going to be talking about what we're doing for them a little bit later on, and that's about customer identity and so on and so forth, and single sign-on, the holy grail of the single sign-on. So we're striving to achieve that for them. And then we've got Swisscom Blockchain, who are an offshoot of Swisscom, which are Switzerland's largest telecommunications company. And we're in partnership with them to help us develop this rather large ecosystem that we're producing. It's ambitious and broad-based, and they're very excited to be working with us as well on that. So the rest of the theme of this presentation is based on a few things on what when blockchain does come to fruition, when it does hit the mainstream, what's that going to look like for all of us, for consumers and for businesses going forward. So this is just our take on it, and it's focused around supply chain and customer relationships, because those are the two bodies you've got up on the stage now. If it was our CTO up here, it would be on something different, or our CEO, it would be something different as well. But we're going to talk about what we know, or we hope we know, and hopefully you'll find it entertaining. So what can blockchain ever do for us? So when you start to look into the future, there's many extrapolations of this technology and how it will help, and there's many people predicting futures, and it's gone on for many years. And chief amongst those is George Orwell's 1984, which was actually written in 1948. He just swapped the two numbers at the end there. He probably, he put all their imagination into the book, and I thought, published in 49, but 1984 talks about those troubling things about state control, monitoring behaviours, manipulating populations, and so on and so forth. It's a dark start. I get that. It does get cheerier, so you have to stay with me. So it starts there, and maybe kind of ends up around here at this moment in time, and here we come in with where we're suddenly in a world where our data is monetized and sold on without our consent. It's our data, it's no one else's. So to use their platform, we have to be farmed for this data. So blockchain has a lot of positives to add to this transaction of data between, whoa, quick hands there, that was good, between businesses and customers, and that's what I wanted to explore a little bit further. So this is where we believe within the next couple of years we might well start to see a difference in the relationship between consumers and businesses and what they do. And that change will come around because of blockchain technology, the right technology at the right time. So we call this New World, not our phrase, but a phrase that has been coined, and we kind of go along with that because we believe in that, and we call this the trust economy. A new take on maybe, sorry, I'm just really nervous about this laptop falling off here at the moment. So I know it's not my laptop, but you know, Peter, kill me. So this whole idea of, by the way, these notes are for your benefit, not mine. It just keeps me succinct because I do ramble. So the trust economy is going to overhaul the relationship between users and providers in many aspects, and that can be businesses, that can be business to consumer, that can be business to business, but there are mutual benefits for everyone, and it's all about trust. So if we start with consumers, and let's just roll back a couple of slides and see where we are with trust and our data, then the trust economy starts to have some weight behind it, I believe. Individuals and governments are now asking questions about what happens to this data, where is it stored, why is it stored, and there's some very difficult questions that need to be answered, and blockchain can help us answer those questions. And from Omnitude's perspective, one of our products, the very first product that we're going to be launching is something that we call the Omnitude ID. Now, there are several blockchain businesses out there doing a self-sovereign identity, but our Omnitude ID is the start of a suite of products that we will be rolling out across both consumers and businesses to help with this transition of data and management of data. And so for us, the Omnitude ID consists of some key pillars. First being a single sign-on. So if you sign on to the Omnitude platform, you can then, with one click, sign on to any other website that is using the same platform without re-entering data again and again and again. We all do it. We all do it. Size, address, you know, shipping address, credit card details, all of that. That's all stored on the blockchain and is accessed through this platform. Most importantly, though, it's a self-sovereign identity, which allows the individual to have granular control over their data. What aspects of that data that they've loaded up onto this platform do they choose to share with each individual vendor? So it changes the relationship between vendor and customer now, in the fact that the vendor has to earn the customer data by producing a goods or services that the customer truly appreciates. But it gets even better for the customer there, because within our system we have the ability now to reward via microtransactions, crypto microtransactions. So if I choose to share more data than I need to share with a vendor, then I get rewarded for it. And that's an incentive. So I get paid for the value of my data, not someone else getting paid for selling my data onto someone else. So big business won't like that. You know what? There are many benefits for businesses as well, big and small. A frictionless customer experience. So from my perspective, businesses from inside of brands and all that is how easy can we make it for a customer to engage with our brand? Well, a frictionless customer experience with a single sign-on is one way that we can do that. This transaction of data and reward for data means that you can get a greater understanding of your customers' needs. And so the businesses that have their customers' needs at the heart of their business or their service will be rewarded with a greater depth of data from their customers, because that relationship will be there. The customer will want to give them more data and get rewarded for it. That allows loyalty programs, both normal fiat or crypto loyalty programs, bespoke managing of those loyalty programs by those businesses. There's a greater pressure now from society for greater transparency for businesses, and we'll talk about that later as that's coming up as well. And there's cost efficiencies because it can be integrated within our existing systems without too much of a headache. So if I just took for an example, this is James. James buys his hats from, is it Kavanagh's just down the road here? Buys 3 Stetsons a year from Kavanagh's, let's just say. So they're happy. They sell 3 Stetsons to James. James is happy. He buys 3 great Stetsons back. However, James buys, let's say, 10 hats a year. The other 7 are bowler hats, and he buys them from the bloke down the road. Now, Kavanagh's never knows about that. They don't understand that. But James likes Kavanagh's, and he wants them to know, and Kavanagh's want to know, so they reward him for James allowing them to access that data. Now, one James, that's not a big deal, but it's 10,000, 100,000 James, giving this business that sort of information, that allows that business to then say, should we carry on just selling Stetsons, or shall we start selling bowler hats? So the trust economy can add real tangible benefits to businesses that embrace it. Earned data is far more valuable than paid data. It's more granular, it's more accurate, it's much more relevant. Now, I've worked for many businesses that have bought great data lakes of data and paid a lot of money for them. And all it'll tell you is, someone between the ages of 20 and 40 might at some point like licorice, or, they might eat donuts 3 times a week. So that's not earned data. If I want to know how many donuts or how many pieces of licorice or what laces people have got in their boots, and I've got a relationship with their customer, I can ask them directly, pay them for that, and get meaningful data back straight away. So that's the first tenet of what we're talking about with the Omnitude ID. But what is true for people is true for things as well, to a certain degree. So Martyn's now going to take over and start to talk about how this trust economy and how blockchain can start to help build stronger supply chains as well.
Do you want to sit down, John?
Can I?
So, as I mentioned at the beginning, DHL background with supply chain, the cornerstone or keystone of our technology, one of them is this Omnitude ID, which sits amongst the most important elements of the development that we're going through. What I wanted to show today was how we're not just looking at a component of the supply chain, we're looking at the end-to-end supply chain. And the end-to-end supply chain looks something like this, where it starts with product development and finishes with delivery of the package or the product to the client. All the benefits of blockchain are listed down at the bottom in the last 2 arrows, but there are some boxes missing from here. And what we've tried to do is to explain how the missing boxes will be enabled by blockchain to improve the overall supply chain. But suffice to say that the blockchain solutions that we're developing will eventually cover the entire end-to-end supply chain. It's an ecosystem that we'll be setting up, and we will give access to other developers to develop their applications on top of the middleware platform that we're developing. Swisscom have been very instrumental and very participative in how to do that, helping us to understand the best way of doing it. And our CTO, James Worthington, has been able to take that information, advice, consultation, and bring it to bear, first of all with Omnitude ID, but as I say, each of these elements will pass through one by one. So the foundation keystone is at the bottom, underpinning the entire platform. The second area that I wanted to talk about, I can't read your notes, John.
I wouldn't read them if I were you.
The second element is this provenance, this sourcing of product that you can prove where it came from. And John touched on at the beginning around how one of our clients, Absolute Taste, have got a penchant for high-class food, whether it be Michelin star event management food served at Grand Prix, or whether it be executive jet lunches that people get on their private jets. And what they've discerned is that their customers have a thirst for knowledge and information about their product. So they might want to know where that fish was caught. They might want to know which side of the riverbank that fish was caught. And that information is obviously enabled by being able to capture it within the blockchain and not change it and trace it through the entire supply chain from farm to plate. And we're busy working with Absolute Taste to develop how we read that information into the menu using an iPad on the executive jet, for example, and delivering that information straight to the client. The other area where sourcing is enabled by a blockchain to be more secure is in the overall aspects of counterfeiting. And the same solution that we can see providing provenance for the product information for Absolute Taste will be also enabled to allow us to start imagining how we can reduce and eliminate counterfeiting of products, whether that be luxury goods, tobacco, or as recently seen within the Australian environment, honey, where they found that 140% of their capacity was being sold externally and 40% just seemed to come from nowhere. Well, obviously it was counterfeit product. And the ability to trace and track that is a conundrum that we're working with several of our customers to try and improve and explain how the provenance of the product is a keystone in that workflow as well. The next area is around Internet of Things. You know, we've all heard, I keep going to conferences and listening to everyone talking about the digitization of supply chains. Invariably, the digitization of supply chains consists of clouds. It consists of Internet of Things. I've yet to hear a presenter talk about the third enablement with blockchain, which is a sad indictment of the supply chain industry. But there are barriers, as we know, of people having legacy systems that have invested millions in their ERP, WMS, TMS, demand planning systems. And the whole concept of what we've been developing is to enable those legacy systems, instead of conundrum of throwing them away or retiring them and replacing them with blockchain, we very much see it as being a side-by-side complementary play, completely eliminating the necessity to throw that information away, but also reusing the data that's in those systems, which in many cases is pretty valuable data. So in terms of the Internet of Things and the quality assurance at the moment is very much a linear checkpoint type of reporting. It gets to the factory gates, you check it. The product might be then shipped from port to port, you check it in the port of arrival. You check it in the ingestion into the warehouse. At no stage do you really be checking that product through its life cycle, through its journey from production into a warehouse or, in fact, into the customer. Where Internet of Things makes a difference is within something like Lewis Hamilton, for example. Basically, when he won the global championship, one of the things that they're doing with his brakes that get up to temperatures of 1200 degrees centigrade is that instead of just making them wherever they're making them and shipping them to the factory and then fitting them or sending them to the racetrack and fitting them there, they will not know whether that product has been jarred or exerted pressure or dropped even. With ceramic brakes, if you drop a ceramic brake, you can get a hairline fracture. So one of the things that they've done is fitted a pressure gauge to the pallet that contains the brakes. And they're using that to essentially track that quality, not just at points and checkpoints, but all the way through the actual journey of the brakes from the manufacturer to the end consumer. That's where Internet of Things kind of helps the blockchain, because you can write the information to the blockchain. You can't, it's much more transparent, it's much more tamper-proof, and the information that's being recorded, as John was saying, contributes to this overall improvement in the trust economy. I'll whiz to the end here, just for the purpose of time. The important issue here is, with our middleware platform, is that what we want to be able to do, and what we ultimately see converting all these yellow boxes to blockchain-enabled boxes, is the ability to integrate, as I mentioned before, with the large ERP systems. The good news is that the large ERP systems manufacturers are starting to talk about blockchain. Oracle, for example, mentioned on Friday that they have a few products to be launched, Track and Trace, and some other products that are going to be using in their ERP sales system. But we all know how expensive they can be. And also that they're not necessarily looking to provide those solutions to existing customers. What we can see is that being able to provide that middleware layer will ultimately improve the overall trusting economy and the trustworthiness of the information that's stored in there. And that's where I'm going to hand back to Pete, to John. Hand back to Pete. No, I'm not handing back to Pete yet. Hand back to John to talk more about the trust economy.
Okay, so that brings us back to the trust economy. So this benefit for both businesses and consumers. Now, why should anyone really care about the trust economy? It's not here now, and they're making plenty of money out of it anyway. Well, there's a small thing called millennials. The most derided generation that I have known, and quite frankly, they don't deserve it. My kids are millennials. As a marketeer, as a branding person, the baby boomer generation was a gift because they had a lot of money, you know, and you could sell stuff to them. They had a lot of money. There are 66 million baby boomers in the US, and there are 77 million millennials. True, the millennials have maybe less money to spend, but it doesn't take a marketing genius to work out that's a big difference. You don't have to be a mathematician to work out whether that market's worth anything or not. Of course it is, and that market's only going to get bigger while the baby boomer market is going to get smaller.
How many baby boomers do you think are in the room, John?
Well, I don't know. How many baby boomers in the room? Hands up. See, we're getting smaller. We're getting smaller. So, I'm a Generation X, by the way. I just thought I'd let you know that. I've just had a hard life. Yeah. So, no, it's not us saying this. These are, you know, so that previous stat came from Goldman Sachs. This stat comes from Accenture. So, millennials spend $600 billion every year, and that number is expected to rise 1.4 trillion by 2020. So if 2020 is when the trust economy really, really does kick in and becomes mainstream, there's $1.4 trillion up for grabs. And any business that isn't indulging itself or indulging its customers in the respect that the trust economy demands is going to miss out on a slice of that. So if companies cultivate these customers, they'll have to follow through on their promises. That's what the slide says. Sustainability is not on the fringes anymore. Now, sustainability is king for millennials, amongst many other concerns, societal concerns that they have. But they are not the freewheeling buy anything types that marketing and branding businesses are used to. They actually care about the provenance of their products and where it comes from. So, another Accenture fact here, just to back up this, is 90% of millennials will shop with any company they perceive as making moves towards a social purpose, even if they don't historically have that reputation. That's the important bit. So it's not just about new companies coming along, it's about old companies adapting and understanding they can't run the same game as they've already run. you know. And social purpose can mean a lot of things. It can mean donations to charity, it can mean ethically sourced, it can be locally sourced produce, it can mean organic. It can mean social purpose is the umbrella, but it does mean provenance. It does mean provable statistics. Now, at this moment in time, the mainstream understanding of blockchain is not really anywhere, but that's not going to stay that way. As the understanding of what this technology can deliver goes beyond cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and starts to move into everyday technology, then the genie's out of the bottle then. When people know that this technology is out there and know that there's proof that all of these claims that these businesses can make, know this can be proved. If you've got two manufacturers that are selling ethically created T-shirts, and one of them can prove it on the blockchain and the other one can't, then that's a competitive advantage for the business that adopts blockchain. And the businesses that ignore technology are the ones that do it at their own peril. For every Netflix, there's a Blockbuster in the equation. So let's just roll this back to where we started and this dystopian view of the future that Orwell had. And he suggested, within 1984, he suggested, he who controls the past controls the future. Well, I think no. And I think this next generation of technology and the people that adopt it and the people that understand it and will implement it, you know, the NEMs, the one-chains, the us of this world, have got a real chance to be able to change the game. And certainly from my side of the fence, when I talk about the relationship between brands and consumers that I've seen my whole life, and I've been, you know, I've sold people shit they don't need, you know. But I think this changes the game, and I think this is really important and really positive, and we should start to really look forward to those moments when blockchain does creep into the regular consciousness of everyone, and it's not just Bitcoin, and it's not just cryptocurrency, it's the technology that actually can deliver on the promises that these brands and businesses have made to us for years and maybe not necessarily have followed up on. I think that changes the game. Now, shameless plug right at the end here. So we are about to do a live demonstration of our Omnitude ID beta on November the 5th on 16:05 GMT. I'm not sure what the time is here because clocks go forward and back. But we'd love to come along, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll have a live session there, and we'll start to show you under the hood of the system how you can enter your details and data, use it to log on to any Omnitude-enabled website, allow that website to display the preferences that you've already asked it to display, or not, as the case may be, and then to share the granularity of your data and allow each individual vendor to see different parts of your self-sovereign identity. And it'll all be up there and it'll all be working.
Why is it on at 4:05, John? Okay,
so November the 5th, 16:05. So we're Brits. It means something to us. It might not mean anything to you. But in 16:05, on November the 5th, a guy called Guy Fawkes crept into the Houses of Parliament to try and blow it up. And he failed. It was his own attempt at disruption, you know. We're not aiming to blow anything up, but in our own strange, bizarre way, us Brits still like to celebrate that. And so we thought we might go for a few fireworks on November the 5th at 16:05 in our own little way. So one last bit there, so you can follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our YouTube channel. I highly recommend it if you're interested, because it's, as far as we know, it's the first look under the hood of one of these systems out there. And you'll see the crypto micro transactions happening in there as well. Or join the Telegram. They don't bite. They're a nice bunch. They're actually quite well behaved for a Telegram group. There's 19,500 of them, and they have been known to be quite nice every now and then. Thanks for your time, and much appreciated. And I hope you've enjoyed the presentation. So. Thank you.